I was spending money based on my sales, not based on my profits. Ugh, such a bonehead mistake. And as I say it out loud, it's like, duh. I didn't know that $1,000 in sales really only works out to about $200 in profit. I knew that I had to buy inventory. I knew that I had to spend money on marketing and shipping and all these things, but I didn't really know how much or what percentage of the sale it was. I didn't truly understand how much cash my business was generating. In fact, it caused a lot of problems, and I'm still dealing with some of those mistakes. There's a lot of people out there who will spend $110,000 to make $100,000 in sales, and then they'll say, hey, we have a $100,000 company. No, you have a negative $10,000 company. I didn't understand that. I didn't understand that your sales aren't how much money you have. That's just the big number. The real one is profit. Now every week and every month when I'm looking at our numbers and reflecting and going through the profit and loss and looking at our dashboard, I look at EBITDA or net profit. That tells me how effective I am as an operator. That tells me how much money the business is making. The number that's left over at the end of the day, the smallest one, not the biggest one. So how do you figure that out though? Because when you have sales coming in, how do you work backwards from that to find your net profit? I want to give you a couple of ways to get there. And in fact, I think that you should use a combination of all three of these things. The first is to understand your unit economics. Get really clear about your cost of goods sold and your gross profit. If we're selling a $20 item and our cost is $4, our gross profit is $16. That's the first step, figuring out your gross profit. I have a Google Sheet I can send to you. Just DM me the word margin and I will send it over to you for free. It will really help you find your gross profit. The next thing that we need to do is get really clear about the rest of our costs. A lot of times that means we have to get a bookkeeper and we have to hook QuickBooks up to our bank and our Shopify and our Amazon and all of our bank accounts and credit cards so we can look at all the money that's spent. We then need to categorize everything into the big buckets. And those big buckets are cost of goods sold, which we just talked about, shipping and fulfillment, employees and payroll, which includes your pay, marketing, processing fees, returns, and other. Those are just some of the basic categories. You can go a little bit deeper or a little bit simpler for you. But what they do is they show us how much money we're spending in each category. Our goal is to look at the profit, the amount of money that's left over at the end of the month when we've made those sales. Ideally, that number is not negative. If it's not negative, amazing, you're killing it. If it is negative, we need to make some cuts. And that's how it was with me. I first figured out my unit economics, my gross profit, and then I worked backwards and started categorizing all the transactions in QuickBooks. I went through years of transactions and painstakingly moved them into the right category so I could get an idea of how much I was spending in each category. And then the third and final step was to set a budget. And I want to share that with you now so that you can have a baseline of where we're operating from. When it comes to the budget on Scorchmarker, every business has 100 points. Every business has 100%. Nobody gets more, nobody gets less. And every business breaks up their percentage points differently. And I'm referring to their budget. At Scorchmarker, we break things down in a fairly simple way. 20% of every dollar that we make is earmarked for inventory purchases. 20% of every dollar that we make is earmarked for employee salaries, or contractors, or workers, or payroll. 25% is earmarked specifically for marketing. That's Amazon PPC, that's influencer campaigns, that's Facebook ads, Google ads, TikTok ads, all the initiatives. 25%. 15% is earmarked for shipping and fulfillment. That's shipping to the customer, that is our packaging costs, that is our warehousing fees, that's our storage fees, all of it. Everything associated with shipping the product to the customer. Now we're at 85% is earmarked for processing fees. Stripe, PayPal, Shopify, they all charge processing fees. And when you look at it blended, it's around 5%. 7% is set aside for other expenses, such as legal fees, design projects, special projects, new initiatives, product development, things like that. 7% is earmarked for that. 1% is budgeted for returns. So now we're at 94% margin. 6% is reserved for profit. So that means $6 out of the $100 that we make on every sale is profit. Can you see now why it was a problem when I was spending based on the big number? At the end of the day, there's a very small slice of the pie left over. Very small. I was very quickly able to dig myself into a debt hole. Simply by not knowing my numbers, simply by not having good bookkeeping in place, simply by not understanding my unit economics and my profit and loss and how everything marched back outwards and understanding my budget, I was able to overspend and put myself in debt. I'm still paying off some of the mistakes that I made in the past. And by mistakes, I mean hiring people that I shouldn't have hired, spending money on inventory I shouldn't have purchased, marketing spend that I'm never going to recoup my money on. So here's the takeaway for you and how you can use this information to not make the same mistakes that I did. First of all, don't spend money based on your sales. Sales are vanity, profit is sanity, and cash is king. Pay attention to the profit number. 2, you can figure out that profit number in 3 ways. The first is understanding your unit economics. The second is having really good reporting, such as bookkeeping and classified transactions. And the third is setting aside a budget and separating out the money and earmarking it for specific things within your business so that you don't overspend. At the end of the day, every business works the same. We are all providing value. We are all getting paid based on the amount of value that we are providing. We all have 100 points, and they're all divided. We all get 100 points in 24 hours in the day. At the end of the day, we need, and when it really comes down to it, we all have 100 points in 24 hours. So at the end of the day, everybody needs to have more in profit. Every business more or less functions the same. We all have 100 percentage points. We all have 24 hours. The goal is to make sure that we're left over with money. The goal is to make sure that we're profitable. After all of our expenses, satisfying the customer, taking care of them, paying ourselves and our people, we have money left over to grow the business. And if you don't have money left over to grow the business, it is absolutely critical that you focus on it now and solve this challenge before you grow. Because if you're losing money and you make more in sales, you're only going to lose money faster. DM me for my spreadsheet. I think it will really help get the ball rolling. And if you need more help in terms of like bookkeepers and finances and getting all of this stuff set up, I've got a lot of great people I know that do this kind of stuff, and I'd be happy to help you. Just shoot me a DM. Thanks for listening. I hope this saves you some pain.